Have you ever felt like you're drowning in your thoughts? Like no matter how much you try to hold it together, everything is slipping through your fingers. You wake up tired, you go to sleep exhausted, and somewhere deep inside you whisper, I can't do this anymore. But what if I told you that even in your most hopeless moments, when you feel completely broken, that is not your ending, but the beginning of something far more beautiful. There comes a time in everyone's life when the weight of the world feels unbearable, when your heart aches, your eyes are tired from crying, and even your prayers feel heavy. You wonder if Allah hears you, if your pain even matters, or if the silence means you've been forgotten. But what you must remember is that the very feeling of hopelessness you experience is not a sign that Allah has abandoned you. It's a sign that He's calling you back. Sometimes Allah allows the storm to rage not to drown you, but to wash away everything that keeps you from Him. When you're stripped of control, stripped of people, stripped of comfort, that's when your heart becomes raw enough to finally feel His presence. The problem is, we live in a world that teaches us to seek peace in temporary things, money, validation, relationships, achievements, and when those things fall apart, we panic. Peace was never meant to come from the creation, it was meant to come from the Creator. Stress and hopelessness happen when we attach our hearts to what was never meant to stay. You cannot anchor your soul to something that was always meant to drift. Every disappointment you face is a divine reminder to shift your attachment, to let go of what hurts and return to the one who heals. Allah says in the Quran, verily, in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest. Notice He didn't say in wealth or people or success, but in remembrance. That means peace is not something you chase. It's something you uncover when you reconnect to your purpose. If you feel lost, understand that your pain is not wasted. Every tear you've cried, every sleepless night, every moment you thought you wouldn't survive, none of it is meaningless. Allah sees it all. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said that even the prick of a thorn removes sin. So imagine what your deep heartbreak, your heavy anxiety, and your unseen struggles are doing for your soul. They are cleansing you, preparing you, strengthening you. You may not see it now, but there will come a day when you'll look back and realize that your pain was your turning point. It was the doorway that led you to true peace, not because life became easy, but because you finally understood that you don't need to control everything. You just need to trust the one who does. When you feel hopeless, don't run from Allah, run to Him. Your dua in the middle of your pain is more beloved to Him than your silence and ease. Even if you feel your faith is weak, still call upon Him. Even if you feel unworthy, still bow to Him. Because Allah never told us to come to Him perfect. He told us to come to Him sincere. The heart heals through humility, through surrender, through realizing that you were never meant to carry the world on your shoulders. You are meant to kneel and hand it over to the one who can. When you do that, your stress becomes lighter, not because your problems vanish, because your heart finds a new rhythm of peace that no circumstance can shake. You start to see that pain is not punishment. It's purification. It's Allah's way of saying, come closer to me. When you're in sujood crying quietly, when you whisper your fears into the night, know that He hears every word, even the ones you cannot speak. The key is not to suppress your emotions, but to transform them into connection. Say, Ya Allah, I don't know how to handle this, but I know you can. That simple surrender transforms anxiety into trust. You begin to see your stress as a lesson, your heartbreak as a bridge, and your waiting as worship. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, amazing is the affair of the believer, for everything that happens to him is good. That means even your pain is good when you respond with faith. So if you're stressed and hopeless today, pause and breathe. You're not being destroyed, you're being rebuilt. You're being softened, molded, and prepared for something greater. Maybe the doors you wanted didn't open because Allah is protecting you from what you can't see. Maybe He closed one path so He could redirect you to one that leads straight to peace. Don't let despair convince you that your story is over. You are still being written, still being shaped, and every hardship you face is a verse in your journey toward Him. The light you seek isn't gone. It's just hidden behind the storm. And if you trust Him long enough, you'll see that the same storm that scared you was carrying the rain that would make you bloom. So when life feels too heavy, when stress and sadness start to suffocate you, don't give up. Don't let hopelessness win. Turn your pain into a prayer and your despair into a doorway. For every soul that bows before Allah in brokenness rises stronger than before. Your heart may be tired, but it's still beating, and that's proof that Allah hasn't finished writing your story yet. There are moments in life when everything feels like it's falling apart, when you wake up with a heavy chest, feeling the weight of the world pressing down on your heart, and you wonder if things will ever get better. You try to be strong, you tell yourself to keep going, but deep inside, the exhaustion is real, the sadness is deep, and the silence feels endless. You look around and see people smiling, living, moving forward, and you ask yourself, why can't I feel that peace? In those moments, it's easy to believe that you've been left behind, that your pain doesn't matter, that maybe even your prayers are going unanswered. What you must understand is that your pain is not a punishment, it's a process. Every struggle you face is part of a divine plan, a hidden lesson meant to awaken something inside you. You were never promised a life without tests. You were promised that no test would be greater than your ability to endure. So when you feel hopeless, it's not because you are weak. It's because you are human. Every heart that beats in this world goes through darkness before finding its light. Stress, anxiety, and despair are not signs that you've failed, signs that your soul is yearning for its creator. The moment you realize that peace doesn't come from controlling life, but from surrendering to the one who controls it, that's when everything changes. You stop chasing calmness in people, money, or success, and you start finding it in connection with the one who never leaves, who hears every silent tear, who knows the thoughts you cannot even put into words. Sometimes the breakdown is the doorway to your breakthrough. Sometimes Allah takes away everything you depend on so that you finally depend on Him. You see, the heart is like a compass. It points to what it loves most. And if it keeps pointing to temporary things, it will always get lost. But when it points to its source, when it finds its center in the remembrance of Allah, it finds rest. Even the moments that feel like endings are actually beginnings, because Allah never closes a door except to lead you to something better. You may not see it now. The pain that broke you today could be the same pain that builds you tomorrow. Every sleepless night, every anxious thought, every quiet tear, they're all seeds of growth, watering your soul, shaping your faith, deepening your patience. The truth is, peace doesn't come from having a perfect life. It comes from trusting a perfect Lord. When you let go of the illusion of control, you make room for contentment. You begin to understand that the same storm that frightened you was sent to cleanse you, that your waiting is not wasted, that your unanswered prayers are being answered in ways you cannot yet see. So breathe even when it hurts, cry, but don't give up. You are not forgotten. And you are not alone. Every hardship is a bridge, not a barrier. The darkness you walk through now is preparing you to appreciate the light that's coming. Trust that the one who created your heart knows exactly how to heal it. Life is not meant to be free from pain. It's meant to teach you how to find peace through it. And when you finally look back, you'll realize that the times you thought you were breaking were actually the times you were being rebuilt into someone stronger, wiser, and more connected to the one who never left your side. Sometimes life brings you to your knees not because you are weak, but because that is the only position from which you can truly rise. There are seasons of life when you feel trapped between exhaustion and confusion, where your heart feels heavy, your thoughts feel restless, and your soul feels like it's suffocating. You wake up each day hoping for relief, but instead, you find yourself facing the same fears, the same sadness, the same uncertainty. You wonder if you are strong enough to keep going, and deep down, you start questioning if Allah even sees your pain. But what if I told you that He does? That every tear you shed in secret, every silent prayer whispered in the stillness of the night is recorded and responded to in ways far beyond your understanding. You see, sometimes Allah delays the answer not because He's ignoring you, but because He's preparing you. The delay is not rejection, it's redirection. He's not saying no. He's saying, not yet. And in that waiting, He is shaping your heart, strengthening your patience, and teaching you that true peace is not in having what you want, but in trusting the one who knows what's best for you. We often chase after relief in the wrong places, thinking that if we get that job, that relationship, that dream, we will finally feel complete. But the reality is, no matter how much the world gives you, the emptiness will remain if the heart is disconnected from its creator. The stress and hopelessness you feel are signs that your soul is craving something deeper. You can't fill a spiritual void with worldly distractions. You can only fill it with remembrance, with dhikr, with reflection, with surrender. When Allah says, verily, in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest, it's not just a verse, it's a promise. Because remembrance shifts your focus from the storm to the one who controls it. It reminds you that nothing happens without purpose. And even your pain is part of a greater plan. Your suffering may be the means through which your heart softens, your faith strengthens, and your relationship with Allah deepens. It's in the moments of despair that you discover who you truly are and how deeply you are held by the one who never leaves your side. The truth about stress, anxiety, and hopelessness is that they are not enemies to be feared, but messengers to be understood. They are signals from your heart telling you that something within you is longing for a realignment. When the world tells you to suppress your emotions, Islam teaches you to face them with faith, with prayer, with trust. The Prophet experienced moments of deep sadness, yet his connection to Allah was his anchor. He didn't deny his feelings, he turned them into dua. He cried before Allah, not because he was weak, but because he was strong enough to surrender. That is the secret. True strength is not about pretending everything is fine, it's about having the courage to turn to Allah when it's not. So when you feel overwhelmed, don't run away from your pain, run through it toward the one who can heal it. Every moment of sadness can become a moment of connection if you allow it to. When you prostrate in sujud, you are at your lowest physically, but spiritually at your highest. That's where healing begins, in surrender. When you stop resisting life's tests and start accepting them as divine lessons, something inside you changes. You realize that stress loses its power when you remember who is in control. The same situation that once broke you becomes the reason you rise. You begin to find meaning in your trials, peace in your patience, and strength in your faith. And slowly, you understand that what you thought was the end was really the beginning of something greater, a deeper trust, a purer heart, and a soul more connected to its creator. So, if you're feeling lost today, don't despair. Your pain is not a punishment, it's a calling, a call to return, to reflect, to reconnect. And once you answer that call, you will find that the peace you were chasing was never far away. It was within you all along, waiting to be awakened by remembrance and surrender. There are times in life when everything feels unbearably heavy, when you wake up with the weight of the world pressing against your chest, and you wonder if you'll ever breathe freely again. You look around and see everyone moving forward while you remain trapped in the same place, lost, overwhelmed, exhausted. You tell yourself to stay strong, to keep fighting. The strength you once had feels like it's slipping away. You pray, but your words tremble. You cry, but it feels like no one hears you. You try to smile, the H inside doesn't fade. And yet, even in those silent moments of despair, Allah is near. The problem is not that He has abandoned you, but that you have forgotten how close He truly is. The heart, when consumed by fear and disappointment, begins to see the world through the lens of hopelessness. Allah reminds us, do not despair of the mercy of Allah. This verse is not a suggestion, it's a lifeline. It tells us that no matter how deep the darkness feels, the mercy of Allah can reach it. The Quran was not sent to decorate our shelves, it was sent to heal our hearts. It carries within it answers for every confusion, comfort for every pain, and light for every shadowed soul. But the healing comes only when we open our hearts to it, when we allow its words to sink into our wounds and transform our fears into faith. When you recite the Quran with reflection, you begin to understand that every trial you face is wrapped in divine wisdom, even if you cannot yet see it. The world often teaches us to numb our pain, to distract ourselves from the ache within by chasing temporary pleasures or illusions of control. But Islam teaches the opposite. It teaches that healing begins not in running away, but in returning to Allah, to prayer, to remembrance. The stress that keeps you awake at night is not a sign of your weakness. It's a sign that your soul is yearning for its source. The Prophet said that the heart finds rest only in the remembrance of Allah. That's not poetic exaggeration, it's spiritual truth. When you remember Allah, your focus shifts from the chaos to the controller of chaos. You begin to see that every delay, every disappointment, every heartbreak carries a message. Maybe that closed door wasn't a rejection, it was protection. Maybe that loss wasn't the end, it was redirection. Sometimes Allah removes what you love so He can give you what will truly heal you. And the longer you cling to the illusion of control, the longer you remain in turmoil. True peace comes not from having a life without pain, but from trusting Allah within the pain. When you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is Allah trying to teach me through this? Everything begins to change. You begin to see that your suffering has purpose, that your tears are seeds of transformation, and that the silence you feared was never emptiness, it was preparation. The path of spiritual healing is not a straight line. Some days you will feel light and full of gratitude, and other days you will feel like you are falling apart again. That's okay. Healing is not about never breaking. It's about knowing where to turn when you do. It's about learning that faith is not the absence of pain, but the ability to find meaning within it. The Quran reminds us that after hardship comes ease, not before, not instead of, but after, meaning your hardship is not a detour, it is part of the journey toward ease. The pain you feel is not the proof of Allah's distance, it's the proof of His plan. It's through difficulty that He polishes your heart, strips away your arrogance, and brings you back to dependence upon Him. When everything else falls apart, it's only so you can fall into His arms completely. And that's where real peace begins, not in the absence of struggle, but in the presence of surrender. So if you find yourself stressed, anxious, or hopeless today, remind yourself that this moment right here is not the end of your story. It's the chapter that leads to your awakening. Every hardship you've faced, every tear you've shed, every night you've spent in silent prayer has not been wasted. It's all part of your spiritual evolution, the process through which Allah brings you closer to Him. And when you finally look back one day, you'll realize that the moments you thought were breaking you were actually the moments that built your strength, deepened your faith, brought you peace, not from the world, but from the one who created it. When life becomes too heavy to carry, and the mind feels like it's drowning beneath the waves of anxiety, fear, and uncertainty, it's easy to believe that you've lost control, that everything is slipping away from your hands. But sometimes that's exactly where you're meant to be, at the edge of your limits, where your strength runs out so that you can finally discover the strength of Allah. There's a moment in every believer's life when they realize that no amount of worldly comfort, no amount of human reassurance can fill the emptiness inside. That void is not a flaw, it's a sign. It's the heart's way of reminding you that it was never designed to be filled with this world. It was designed to be filled with Allah. When you are consumed by anxiety, you are not broken, you are being called. When you feel hopeless, you are not abandoned, you are being invited to turn back. You see, Allah never promised that life would be without pain. He did promise that He would be with us through it. The Quran does not deny the reality of hardship, it redefines it. It transforms your suffering from something meaningless into something sacred. What feels like a storm sent to destroy you is often a storm meant to cleanse you. It removes what is temporary so that you can see what is eternal. When we are hit by trials, we tend to question why we are the ones enduring so much pain. But the truth is, trials are not a punishment. They're a purification. They're meant to strip away everything that distracts us from Allah. Every time life disappoints you, it's actually teaching you detachment. It's teaching you to stop expecting perfection from something that was never meant to be perfect. When you lose something, you're not losing control. You're being reminded that control was never yours in the first place. That realization is painful because the ego resists surrender. It wants to believe it can fix everything, plan everything, manage everything. But the more you cling to that illusion, the more exhausted you become. The heart that constantly tries to play God will never find peace because it's carrying a burden it was never meant to bear. True serenity begins when you finally say, I can't do this on my own, and you mean it. In that moment when you place your forehead on the ground and cry not because you've given up, but because you've given in to Allah's will, that's when you are closest to freedom. The sujood that comes from desperation is the most beautiful kind because it's pure, sincere, and born out of the realization that there is nowhere else to go but Him. Sometimes Allah allows your plans to fall apart so your heart can finally fall into place. He withholds what you thought you wanted to give you what you truly need. And often, what you need is not success, wealth, or comfort. It's nearness to Him. You may lose people you thought you couldn't live without, and you may face situations that break your confidence and shake your peace. But all of this is part of a divine orchestration that you cannot yet understand. We live in a world obsessed with instant relief, with quick solutions to pain. But spiritual healing takes patience, faith, and surrender. It's not about escaping your reality, it's about transforming it. Islam doesn't tell you to deny your pain. It teaches you how to navigate it with purpose. When you recite the Quran in your darkest moments, you'll find verses that speak directly to your condition. They remind you that those before you also suffered, that prophets cried, that believers struggled, and that through all of it, they found peace, not in the absence of trials, but in their connection with Allah. The Quran teaches that the heart at rest is not one free from pain, but one anchored in remembrance. The more you remember Allah, the smaller your problems appear, not because they disappear, but because your perspective shifts. You start seeing that the pain itself is an invitation, a means of drawing closer to the one who never leaves. And so, when you find yourself tired of carrying the weight of your thoughts, when the nights feel long and your prayers seem unanswered, remember that every second of your patience is being recorded. Every tear you shed in secret is seen by the one who understands even the words you cannot say. Allah's mercy is not delayed, it's deliberate. He knows the exact moment when relief will be most meaningful, and He never fails to deliver it. Life's struggles are not evidence of Allah's absence, they are proof of His attention. He is refining you, strengthening you, and preparing you for something greater. The very moments you thought would destroy you are the ones shaping your heart into something more resilient, more aware, and more loving. When you finally look back, you'll see that every hardship was a chapter in your transformation, every heartbreak a doorway to deeper faith. So don't despair when nothing seems to go your way. Perhaps the path you're walking isn't the wrong one, it's just the one designed to bring you home to Allah, because in the end, peace isn't found when life is easy. It's found when the soul surrenders and whispers, Hasbi Allah, Allah is enough for me.